Welcome, Survivor. Have a close look at this booby trap base. Oh, isn't it really wonderful? You'll see the strippers, they walk up the ramp, they walk off, fall down, ragdoll sometimes one way or another, and then they walk around and restart their path. And I'm happy to announce that this base has nothing to do with the video at all. Absolutely nothing. The only reason I put it there is because it's going to be a little bit of a dry discussion at first, and I wanted to give you something nice and hot to watch. I know a lot of people love the strippers. I mean, you do, right? You do, don't you? And together, strippers with a booby base. Come on, that's a booby trap, right? And I always have these ladies, falling over themselves and on each other, just trying to get to me. I mean, what can I say? It's magnetism, I'm so attractive. But jokes aside, so this is going to be a little bit of a Bust the Mythbuster kind of episode. Last time I went through the question that I was actually mythbusting regarding poles, different shapes, whether they take more damage than regular full blocks or whether it's all the same. And in a nutshell, beyond some basic glitches that can occur on any blocks, all the shapes take the same damage. But is that entirely correct? Yes and no. So the original myth was, does anyone have a table of damage buff zombies get against different block shapes? I'm trying to understand it. All shapes of material types have the same hit points, blah, 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 but they take damage at different rates. So that was the original premise. And I was fairly sure that this was not correct, that this was not what was going on. But there are people who are saying that they've tested it, and I don't doubt people. I'm very clear about that, and I've said that multiple times. I'm not calling anyone a liar, just that my testing experience is different. But I know that the game have a few curveballs here and there, that it's not entirely consistent with how it actually works, and there's sometimes things that are going on that people might not entirely realize. So they might say one thing that is not entirely accurate as well. So there was highlights saying that poles take a lot more damage. So I tested that out, and it was actually not the case. They took sometimes a little bit of extra glitch damage. They were taking 9 or 10 or 11 instead of 8, but it was pretty consistent. They took 8 damage just like any other blocks. But that wasn't it. Posting that, there were even more testing coming out, and people saying, hey, if you put the regular, the corner poles, if you put them horizontal, they'll take a lot more damage. They'll take that extra times 6 damage. And people saying that's definitely, they see that happen all the time. And I even saw one guy who actually made a little video showing that this was actually the case. And I figured that, okay, something weird is going on, because that's not necessarily been my experience. And that just makes it all more confusing, because I'm pretty sure, even, we'll get to that towards the end, that there is no damage based on the shape. What I do believe, and I'll tell you why I believe this is the case as well, that there is certain shapes that might glitch more than others, simply because how they look. Hitboxes, movement boxes, pathing, and all that. So I'm going to go through all that throughout this episode. And if you're still listening to if you're still watching all these lovely ladies falling over themselves, don't forget to leave a subscribe on my channel. I get tons of views on my channel, but a lot of people, probably you as well, forget to subscribe, or they think that, well, we'll see about that and everything. I do appreciate if people give me a subscribe to my channel. That helps me grow even more and provide even more of these videos for your delight and your entertainment, and hopefully some education about how the game mechanics work. But sorry, ladies, you guys unfortunately will have to die. I want you to die, Bond. Alright, so let's go over here. So let's go over here to my little testing arena. Now, it seems like the centered poles and like these ones never seem to have any issues. And I showed that previously, and regardless of how I rotate them, they seem to have a lot less issues. And let me do it like this. And let me block that off so they don't jump over. Let me bring in, let's say, Joe. I like Joe. I mean, people are saying to use Arlene or Darlene, but I kind of like Joe. He's always been good to me. So he'll walk up here and he will do a nice 8 damage bash. So that's pretty standard, right? That's what we'd be expecting. But let's take him out, and let's say, really take him out, and let's put something down here at the bottom. We're going to put a couple of poles here. We're going to put this one here and put this one here. So you would expect that, because the pole is a pole, it should be taking the same damage, right? So let's see what Joe does as he walks up. He... One... bashes, and it took 48 damage, and 48 damage, and it's like, what? Why is he taking 48 damage? It's a... No, what's happening there? So they definitely can take 6 times the amount of damage, depending on what's happening. So I thought, fine, let me, if I shift them a little bit, what happens if I just shift them so that they are like here instead? Does that make any difference at all? Come back here, Joe. Give it a bash. Give it a whirl. Okay, this one, it was still taking 48 damage. If you bash again just so people can see, thank you, Joe. There we go. You see, it's still 48 damage. So now you will conclude that, no, Vedui was wrong. Poles definitely take more damage. They take 48 more damage. Not so fast, hombre. It's not entirely correct either, because I was obviously going to test this out even more, because this just will not do. So let me do something like this. I'm going to place this, and I thought, hey, what if I place a half block behind? What happens here? I mean, it must be something must be happening. So I thought, fine, let me do that, and let me bring in Mr. Joe again. He walks up. You would expect 48 damage, right? He'll bash, and no, it's 8 damage. But you notice it is one of those same poles that I just had. It is placed horizontally. It's taking 8 damage. It's not taking 48. So obviously there doesn't seem to be a check that has anything to do with actual shape. It's not a pole, it's not a full block. And the plot thickens. Steel Spy was on Reddit, and again, let me take a quick moment to back out and thank everyone who were participating on Reddit and just bringing their feedback, their information in my comment section on the different posts about what they found out and everything. Everyone were really civil. Everyone were great. If you've been using Reddit, you know that there's a tendency for things to sort of go totally sideways, and then the curses and this insult and stuff like that come out and everything. But people have been really good. I think the community definitely has. Over the last year, maybe a year and a half, have gotten a lot more positive and constructive, and I appreciate everyone who joined in. I really do think that everyone gave a lot of good feedback, providing different views, not necessarily accusing anyone else of lying, but basically saying, hey, this is what I'm getting, my friend is getting this, and then we all can sort of take that and sort of figure out what's really happening, and that's really helped. So I actually have a very good explanation for why I'm fairly certain things are happening, but I'm not going to tell you yet. You're going to have to keep on looking at it. So you see, this one is just taking 8 damage. So it's not the pole itself. And I thought, fine, if I do this, what if I do something different? What if I do something like a wedge tip? Obviously, it's got something to do with the positioning of the zombie. If he was sort of on a half block, he's doing 8. If he was slightly further down, he was doing 48. So positioning seems to matter. And do I have any concrete? Come on, concrete mix. Give me a little bit just to, yeah, let's do that. So now you see I have this one up on a little bit of a wedge tip slope. How does that impact? Then come up here. We'll see. What? No damage at all. What is this magic? He's bashing it, and he's not dealing any damage. And you go, I know he's bashing this block. No, no, no. He's bashing this block. No, no, no. Actually, he's bashing the block down here. I don't know how he even manages to do that, because I mean, he's bashing up here, and suddenly this one is taking damage. I think because he's not up on the half block yet, and the game goes like, well, either I damage this one or damage this one. Regardless, I'm going to damage one of them, and it decides to do this one, which is really weird. But it shows that something is weird, but it's still just 8 damage. Now, what happens if you take this one out? He's going to go and attack this block, right? And let's see, bang, 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 and come on, Joe. Yes, no, absolutely not. He's still not attacking this. Well, most of the time, he's done a little bit of damage, but he's actually doing like this. So what if I take out this one? What happens? Well, because he can't walk, he's going to keep bashing this block. Really peculiar behavior. So it still means that something to do with positioning is affecting where he's hitting and how much damage he's actually dealing. Now, I did try to It's not so easy, unfortunately. I did try to sort of knock him around a little bit, see if I could get him to glitch into one of the blocks. I couldn't manage. I just could not manage to do that properly. Come on. No. Come on. Can I? Yes. Now, are you still stuck there? Come on, it's too high. What am I talking about? I still couldn't get him to really glitch in and bash the block above. But I think, let's see, are you taking... Where are you attacking now? Joe? Bash. So now he's smashing this one, but he's doing... That looked like 48 damage. So, again, something really weird is happening with all of that. Positioning got to do something. The different block also has something to do with it. And I figured, what if I put a block like this? What happens? And this is something that I also saw someone report. You put this here and it goes like, nope. I don't really know what to do about this weird block. So let me go and bash the steel block. What if I do that as a half block out of wood? You would have imagined that, hey, you know, he's going to go for the half block. Nope. What if I take this one out? Is he going to come back? Yes, he does. So then finally he decides to attack this one. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Sorry, you're going to have to lose an arm there. So you might ask yourself, what's the implication for base building? Because the traditional would be to just have the poles stacked like this. And that seems to be pretty bad. So let me bring in, and I'll show you why. This is steel. This is, oh, alright. You're not supposed to be there. You're supposed to be in here. Can I? Yeah. So this is the demolisher coming out to this one is doing, bam, 3,000 damage. 2 hits. And come on, give me a third one. 3 hits. And he fell over. I know that's really klutzy of you. Come on, 3 hits. Come on, you can do it. No, 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 just bash. Sir, bash. Yes. 4 hits and then he falls through. Really clever because actually, well, normally I don't believe he can actually get out. But if he falls through, he can. So it obviously takes a lot of damage, but see what happens. Why are you getting through there suddenly? Got to do with him shifting. No. I think it's got to do with him shifting around a little bit. So obviously, if you just have it like this, he'll get through, which is not good at all. Oh, but it gives a lot of loot. Anyway, so he can break through really fast. Even steel, 4 hits and he is through. Really, really bad. And if you're not confused yet, well, you probably should be. So as I was reading through some of these things, and I was responding to my comments on my video, there was this slight little niggling recognition of memory that, wait a moment. Haven't I heard about something like this a year ago? There was something in that whole thing about glitching 6 times damage that just, it was just there. I'm like, I'm sure I've heard about that last year. So I actually went to do some research about it. And before I did that, I actually went to Lathan, Mr. Fubar Prime, on his Twitch channel. If you haven't gone to subscribe, follow him there. You definitely should. He's a really nice guy. Does a lot of streaming. But anyway, I went to his stream and I asked him, hey, you know, has the Thumpim slipped in a sneaky way of dealing more damage to these blocks and everything in certain shapes and position? And he said that, no, not the way not that he could really think of. And they wouldn't do that. You know, they put in whatever is in the patch notes. That's what they put in the game. So I wasn't doubting that, but I knew there was something in there still that was really not to do with the shape, not to do with orientation either, but something that is glitching. And it struck me that it had been a discussion on the 7 Days to Die forums, and I went to search for it, and I found something that really applies, and I'm going to show you why. So this is, let me take this one out. I think this one is slightly damaged, so let me just replace that one. And so I'm going to do this. If you're looking here, I've got an opening here, and I'm going to fill it up. And then I'm going to put in Mr. Joe. So you would expect him to do 8 damage, right? And attack the bottom one. And he is. He's attacking this one, and is dealing 48. Wait, didn't he just do 8 just now? Why is he suddenly doing 48 every hit? Because he actually is. Every hit is consistently 48. And this really made sense from what I was reading. So I'm going to take out this one. Let's just take out these ones. And now let's see what happens to his damage. Come on, go. Is it this one then? Now it's 8 damage. 8 damage every single time. If you notice just now, it was 48 every time. And it all makes sense. So let me pull up what Meganoth was actually quoting from Fatal. I think I saw that actual discussion somewhere. I just couldn't find the specific post, but I found Meganoth who actually quoted Fatal. And he said, Fatal said a day ago, and this is back in December 2019, zombies do 6 times the damage when stuck, and they decide to attack what is blocking them. Those are generally block colliders that only collide on the edges, which are not seen by pathing. And now, if you look at this behavior, you'll see this is exactly what is happening. If I take him out and I replace this, without this block, he'll basically be able to fit here in this 2 meter high. But as I put in the wedge, he's actually clipping ever so slightly up into that block. And that's causing him to do massive extra damage because he is stuck in the block. And that's what's happening. So when I take out this one above him, suddenly he's no longer stuck. You see, he can actually get up with his head actually getting into the block. And now he's back to doing the regular 8 damage. See, it all makes sense. See, it's 8, 8, 8. That's really what happens. And this matches exactly what Fatal and Meganoth was saying. They do 6 times the damage if they're stuck. Meganoth also continued there. He said that now the interesting question is, did people who wanted to test this strangeness take measures to make zombies get stuck so as to make sure the zombies have to hit the poles? Then that would explain it. I mean, that dealing extra damage and having issues with the poles. Or did they not? And zombies get stuck much more often than anyone, especially the developers think. And I think the answer is yes. They do get stuck a lot more. Just simply getting slightly higher up means they get stuck. I can force him into the top here, where he's actually dealing extra damage. Because I can't place the block now because he's actually occupying this space. But if I do, he will deal extra damage. And you'll see that even if I don't have that, on some of these block shapes, he will still, like being straight, he still is seen as being blocked by it or getting stuck in it, probably because he's sort of glitched into it by pathing wise or something, so he still does that extra 6 times damage. But again, it's got to do with positioning. If I do this, then he will not be doing the extra, well, the extra 6 times damage, because suddenly he's not stuck on anything. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm fine here. I'm not actually getting into it, because if I take this one out, you'll see he can't actually get through. So the game never actually thinks that he's stuck inside this block. You see, when it turns red, it means he's actually occupying that block space. And you'll see is that fairly frequently, every time it's red, he's actually inside this block space because I cannot put down the block. Now I can. So even though he can't get in through here because the opening from here down to, well, down to here, let me show down to there. From that side up here, this corner down to here is actually too small for him to fit through. But despite that, he still occupies this space somehow because he goes slightly into when he moves, maybe his arm or his hip or his leg or whatever. And that causes the game to think he's stuck, so he does extra damage. Mystery is solved. So I would say this is really what's going on. That's the mystery about it. Nothing to do with the shapes themselves, just that some shapes makes it more likely that the game will consider them sort of stuck into the zombie, or the zombie stuck into them, and he'll deal extra damage when he's bashing. Can happen with poles, can happen with plates, can happen with, people are saying, sometimes even with the wedge tips, and obviously it can happen with the square blocks as well. And this is the beauty of having multiple viewpoints where people are experiencing something different, and then we sort of come together to try to figure out what is going on. And again, it's not the poles, it is the glitch or the stuck in the block thingy that they've implemented that has the really unfortunate side effect that it's incorrectly getting stuck in some blocks right in front of it and is dealing that extra damage. And it seems to happen fairly frequently with the poles, unless you do something else like you have the wedge tips right in front of it or something. So how do you avoid that? Well, use the center poles. Those will seem to be just fine. They're not as good as the other poles because they are in the center of the block, but they still work. I think that ultimately, long term, this is probably something that the fun pimps really need to have a look at, because it's really weird behavior. The zombie isn't stuck, but the game goes like, well, no, I'm going to treat him as stuck, and I'm going to give you a massive damage bonus. And if it's a demolisher, like I showed, he'll break through literally steel blocks in seconds. Well, 10 seconds, whatever, depending how often he hits. And that's not the way you want to have it. It's, tough enough to build bases with steel, because the zombies go through them like butter without them having a 6-time damage bonus, because hey, they got bumped a little bit and now the game considers him stuck inside the block, and it's just going to tear a really big hole through your wall. But what do you think? Do you think this explains it? Is there still something that is unexplainable about this? What do you think happens? Do you agree with my reasoning? Do you disagree with my reasoning? Let me know. I would love to hear your input. And if you have any testing that sort of throws all of this into doubt or shows something differently, again, that's why I like to show these videos, because I can show exactly what I'm testing and what the results are, because the results don't lie. Now, it might mean that it's not all of the testing that could be done, but at least it will show what happens in the certain situation that I'm testing. I think it's been resolved, at least as the mystery. I don't think the issue is resolved, and I don't know if it ever will be. We'll find out. But thank you very much for watching, and wait! You did subscribe, right? If you didn't, well, please don't forget, drop me that subscribe, and drop me a like, and comment, and all of that. I'll see you next time.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the Vedui community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.